Hi, Yvonne.
Hello. Hi, Evie. I want to say how are you, but I'm not even going to go there. After the story you just shared with me, we'll save that for another time, I think.
Yeah. Leave everyone on a cliffhanger. Well, we are here, we are well, and we are talking about thriving today. And I think it is a nice topic to discuss and to expand on. So I just want to say from the start that it is a topic we're going to talk about for till the end of the month because we feel that it is so important and it affects all of us. And probably we will be able to see it and talk about it from different perspectives and different areas. So, yeah, I leave the rest with you.
No, never do that. Never leave the rest with me. But yeah, I think one of the reasons we kind of decided that the next few weeks will kind of really hone in on this particular topic of thriving is because if you've been following us weeks in and weeks out, we focus on the myth busting, a lot of the phrases, and it may feel quite negative if you've been following them all along and thinking, oh my gosh, there are all these, at least a dozen of these phrases that are familiar to me. What is wrong with me? Well, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just that we have been tapping into this language for so long, these patterns, the behaviors, that they have become or they have started to feel like they are who we are. And really the whole myth busting is to say that that is not the case. This is the way that they are showing up in your day-to-day living. And yes, today we're looking at thriving and we're looking at some of the phrases that come up around that as well, so that we can again start getting to the heart of the life that we truly want to have, where we're not being held back or being kind of shrunk by these patterns that we have adapted to, right? They have just become the way that we show up. And it's not until we recognize them, when we were talking about awareness just a moment ago before we came online, until we have that awareness that we can start to sit with them and notice them. So for me, it's not even about what do I need to do about it. I need to do something now. It's I need to notice when this is happening. Even with maybe what frequency, without feeling I need to do anything before we actually decide what do we want to do. Or actually, where is this still supporting me and helping me? And where is it hindering me? So that you can make decisions from that conscious place. And so today, as we look at thriving, the first phrase that we have is, I'll thrive when everything is sorted. And I kind of want to throw a question at that and just say, when will everything be sorted?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like if you feel that you will ever have everything sorted, my God, good luck. I just, would say something like that. Because as you say, it's very hard to, first of all, to know when everything is sorted. What does that mean anyway? And why would you have to wait that long for you to thrive? And of course, thriving is a personal thing as well. It's like, what does it mean for you? So many things to unpack here, like we said to start with. But I think that something that comes up with me with this phrase in particular, it's more about putting things off rather than anything else. Because we know things do get sorted step by step. We, most of us, have an aim, a goal, we want to reach somewhere,
Mm,
but also, all of us, while doing that, we're living our lives. And God forbid if we are expecting to get there, to arrive before we actually live our lives. It doesn't happen like this. So why would we want to even, like, I don't know, to even consider that I will thrive, I will be well when I get there? What are you doing now?
And that is that pushing it out to some line sometime in the future.
Yeah.
And I also feel that it's tied in with, kind of perfection, like when everything is sorted, because for me, that already sounds like perfection talk. When everything is sorted, then I can start to thrive. And given that for the vast majority of us, if not all of us, there is not a time when everything is sorted. Gosh, I'm over 60 and not to date has there ever been a moment when everything is sorted. It hasn't happened. However, I have chosen to thrive regardless, alongside. So the stuff keeps happening, life keeps happening, challenges keep arising, stresses appear. And what I have personally learned is that that doesn't mean to say that I can't thrive. It's for
No.
me to be able to decide, well, what does thriving even look like for me
Mhm.
personally? And what do I ensure I have in place, or that I do, or that I say, that I get to experience that, regardless of all the other things that are happening in life?
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
about you, Evie?
Well, as you said, I think we're on the same page with this one, because I can't see how anything is going to be sorted, or why I should wait for everything to be sorted before I can actually live. And the idea is to take the moments as they come, be aware of what's going on around you, and celebrate the little wins, celebrate the moments of happiness or the pockets of joy that you are seeing, and use those as your springboard, let's say, to thrive. Because if I wait for the absolute end outcome to happen before I can do that, first of all, the muscle of happiness is going to have atrophied by then. So I won't be able to enjoy anything. And second, how do I know what that thing in the future will really feel? So that's how I sort of live my life. I like to take the opportunity to make the best with what is here and now,
Mm,
and use that as fuel for the next moment.
yeah.
Not like, 10 years from now, but for literally the next moment. And I think ever since I've started doing that, I became much more relaxed, and less stressed with whatever is going on, because believe me, but there are a lot of things going on, and there are stressors in our lives. What can we do? This is
Yes.
how things are. But the the choice is, like, what do we do with it? And the important thing, and I had this discussion with a client the other day, it's like, oh, this happened, that's happened. I really don't know how to enjoy myself anymore. I'm not asking for anything for myself. I can't. I don't know what even asking for anything for myself looks like. And I'm like, okay, do you hear yourself? Because this is exactly what this um, muscle atrophy looks like. And it's not about everyone else asking for things from you. It's about you making the choice to say, okay, this half hour is mine. Half hour a week, half hour every 2 weeks. I don't care.
Mm,
Start small, but do it, and accept that you deserve it, because there are so many things behind that. But you can see this is a personal choice, and no one can take that away from you if you don't allow
I think it's also identifying what thriving feels like. Because some people say,
it.
like, what does that even mean? What does it look like? What does it feel like? So, for me, it's, when do I feel, for me, there is like a sense of freeness that goes with that. But this week I've been talking about on some of my posts about being like the gardener, like tending my garden. And so when do I feel like I'm fully thriving is when there's some wildness and unexpected stuff going on. I like that. That excites me. That is part of my thriving. Then there's the parts that are organized and have some sort of I don't want to say routine, but some normalness to them. They are happening. That also helps me to thrive. There's like some consistency in some of the things. And that is also part of it. Then it's, who are the people that come in that also help me to thrive and that I feel like thriving? What's that energy that I like being around that energizes me also? And also being aware of the energies that take away, that deplete, and am I keeping that in balance? So for me, it is like tending this garden, and there's nothing perfect about it. It's an unmanicured garden, but there are pockets of tidiness, and then there are pockets of wild abandonment, right? And that for me is like complete joy, right? And that's, and if I were to put it in, what does that mean in what I'm doing? Like, oh, this week I'm just going to go off and do something I didn't plan to do. I'm just going to do it just because I can, type thing. And whether that's on my own or with other people, that just feels joyful.
Hmm.
That, like, for me, is my freedom of expression, just doing things off the cuff. And it's the mix of all of those things. But ultimately, what that also does, that thriving in life, not as a separate thing from life, means that when the challenges and the more difficult circumstances arise, I have tended myself sufficiently to deal with them,
Hmm.
to manage them, to be with them, because some of them aren't resolved in a moment, but I have the capacity to be with them. And I think that for me is thriving.
And like it can look like, very different for everyone, but the whole point is to understand and accept that you deserve to be in that state, in the state of like, I'm good with me, I'm good with the moment, I'm good with what's happening around me, I can deal with it. Because I also hear a lot like, yeah, it doesn't matter what's going on, I will manage. But like, in you can hear the anxiety in this
Mm,
particular phrasing. I know I will manage because I have always done it by myself like this. And it, like, to me, straight away, it feels like, oh my God, this is so much pushing. And yes, eventually you will manage, but at what cost?
yeah.
And why can't you explore something that might serve you a little bit more? And it doesn't have to be like a big change either. But you see, at that state of mind, you cannot even answer what thriving looks like. You really can't answer it. And I will invite anyone that is listening that if they have a difficulty understanding what thriving means for them, what is that one little thing that they can do today for themselves and only themselves that will light them up, that will give them a little bit of space so they can take that next step that they want to
Mm,
take. Reflect. Please understand that you you have the answers. It's not about anyone else saying, anyone else indicating, anyone else being there, even holding space is not about anyone else. It's about you holding space for you and understanding what is it that you're missing. If you don't know what you're missing, you're not going to be able to answer this question. And it's very strange for me when I come across someone that is like blank when I ask this question.
But I think the thing is, if you've never taken time to notice what nourishes you, if you've never taken time to, and I mean really notice, because you may do something and it does nourish you, but you paid no real attention to it.
Correct.
That happens quite often. So if you haven't paid attention, then it's really difficult to verbalize. Well, I know when I do this, I have this feeling or this sensation, or it lifts me, or it's really hard to do that. So I think it's not to be beating yourself up if you can't name it. What I think is really important is that you choose to pause and consider that. Well, what is it? When I do feel nourished, or what does actually nourish me? What is it that I want or need to pull a bit more into my life so that I do or I can access nourishment in some shape or form, even in the midst of crisis, even in the midst of whatever this other stuff is going on in life, because life is constantly occurring. We do not have control over every element of life. We don't have control of the people in our lives. We have control of this person.
Mhm.
So we also have the ability to sit with this person and be able to say, okay, what do I need to tend to so that there can be more thriving in my life? What have I not paid attention to that helps me to feel more grounded, more joyful, more connected, more whatever the thing is that thriving means to you? And get comfortable with the uncomfortableness of sitting with it, because it's not always comfortable to sit with that either. And it's really uncomfortable to sit with it in midlife when you think, how can I be at this stage of my life and not know what thriving means? How has that happened? How has that occurred? Instead of sitting there and again kind of finding ways to make yourself feel bad about it, to say, well, now that I've recognized that I haven't, now may be a really good time for me to sit with it and really start thinking about those things.
I completely agree. The thing is that at that point where you are in the midst of life, usually the, the pausing is the hardest thing to do. And as you said, even though, and we have always professed that pausing is important, because pausing creates the space for
Yes.
like to draw in, like if you cannot name it, think of the feeling, think of something, what it made you, what made you feel a bit more, as you said, connected, a bit happier, a bit joyful, a bit something. Like, where was that feeling? What caused it? What happened around that feeling? Maybe this is going to make things easier, but it is hard. And I when I heard you saying, like being comfortable with being uncomfortable, especially when you're asking yourself to give time to yourself, when you think that, oh, the whole chaos that's happening around me without me is going to really fall apart. It, like, you'll do it once. And I know it from clients when we have done this exercise and they're like, no way, I can't. That's like the first answer. Like, there is no way, no way. I can't give myself this time. I have kids. needing me. I have the job, I have the house, I have this, I have that, I have the other, and I am balancing all these things, and all the plates are in the air, and there's no way. And you're like, okay, what about the possibility? Like, just thinking, what would it be like if there was a way? And do it just for 5 minutes. See what does that look like for you? And maybe the 5 minutes can become 10 next week or something. I don't know. But it is so important to listen and to stop. Even more important than anything else, when things are completely crazy.
Yeah, it's such a challenging one because I understand the discomfort around pausing, especially if you're always on the go. You've always been on the go, you've got things to do, people are depending on you, life is depending on you, work is depending on you, pressure, full on. That the thought of pausing feels like, who does that? Who's even got time for that? But I want to add in here that pausing doesn't necessarily mean standing still.
Mhm.
You can be in movement and still pausing. A lot of my pausing is not me sat somewhere, literally pausing. It's me in movement. I'll go for a walk in nature. I might take a question with me, a thought. I may take nothing with me and just move and see what comes up for me. So your pausing doesn't have to be in stillness, but think of all the headspace that is taken up with lots of things, to-do lists and must-dos and have-to-dos, and actually saying, wouldn't it be lovely to just thread through that? What would make me feel wonderful today? What would uplift me in this moment? What would feed my soul today? What would nourish me? What would make me smile? Just those little glimpses that allow you to plant the seed, even if nothing comes up straight away. It's planting the seed
Mhm.
and just keep planting the seed and then water the seed and see what starts to bloom. Back to my gardening. And I'm not a gardener, by the way.
Yep. But it's a fantastic metaphor in a way, because it makes it visual for people, and I think that when you are talking about gardens, and like, we all have a picture of a garden that is looked after and a picture of a garden that is not looked after, and the weeds might look like nice flowers and whatever. I know to me they do, because I'm like, absolutely, I have no idea what is what. But the bottom line is that if you get rid of the weeds, you can have more space for something nicer, something better, something stronger, all these things. So yeah, I like the metaphor you're using for today with regards
Yeah,
to
and I
garden.
want to add to that though, because that whole thing about weeds is that in a garden, everything has its place, and weeds also have their place. And even if we think of that in life as, if we take the weeds and we say they're the difficult things, they're the things that we have perhaps not paid attention to that shouldn't be there, yet they still leave us with lessons. So it's not that we need to go through the garden and rip everything out that isn't pretty and perfect. It's, what do I need to take from this? And it's now the time to release it. All of that matters. All of that is part of the gardening process. Because I think it's really easy for us to then switch to almost the very thing that we don't want, is this perfection and everything is perfect and cultivated
Definitely.
to within an inch of its life. It's that we can still create beauty even amongst the weeds, even amongst whatever we don't feel or don't really want to have there. We can still do that. And I think that gives us much more sense of harmony, um, which I think is more helpful. Again, just trying to move us away from anything that looks perfect and cut out, Because that for me feels like the biggest challenge most people have. But if it doesn't look like this, then it's not right, you know? And if it doesn't feel like this, then it's not right.
What is right?
Exactly. What is right? And with that, let's go to the second phrase.
Okay, yes, let's do that. I'm telling you, we can talk about this forever. That's why
Forever.
it's a good thing we have a few more weeks on that. Okay, so the next phrase is, this is just survival mode. And to me, uh, that's not, I mean, it doesn't, for me, it's not a phrase. No, actually, I'm lying here. Now that I'm thinking about it, it has showed up in my life, and it has showed up in moments that like I was trying to normalize the difficulty
Mm.
and say, okay, you know, I'll handle this as, you know, in an erratic way, whatever that looks like for me. But I know I'm going to get out of it and I'll be okay. I'll start working on myself again. So it's sort of, I created in my mind, and I think this, it might not look exactly like this phrase, but in my mind was like, okay, this is a parenthesis of absolute chaos. I don't like it. I'm not part of it. I don't, or I am part of it. That was my
Because
life.
you're in it.
Yeah, I'm in it. And I'm not going to pause. I'm not going to look at anything else around me. I know I'm on a survival mode. I know it, and I accept it, and I put my head down and I just deal with things. And you know, thinking about it now, I couldn't have been doing anything worse for myself, right? For myself. It felt really hard. It put me in like to my limits. Um, let's not talk about burnout, but I think it went beyond that because it was not, and you know how it is with burnout, you are like, you can't really pinpoint it. And the way we are discussing about burnout these days more about work and burnout, but
Yes.
you can't burn out in your own life if you don't like really pay attention to what you are all about. And this survival mode, yes, we can all do it, but do we want to? And why should we? Also, that's a big question.
Yeah, I mean, I hear this. This is not. It's not something that I'm familiar with on a personal level. It's not in the same way, but actually, when you were explaining it, I think, well, I probably have had like moments where I just thought, right, I'm just going to go all in because I just need to get this thing done. But I have been really mindful about the time spent in that space, which feels very different because what has never
Very
happened is I've
different.
not depleted myself from doing it. It's like there's
Yeah.
this block of time, I'm all in, I'm just getting this done. That may feel a little bit like survival, but I know the deadline and I'm out the other side. It's almost like planned survival mode.
Yeah.
Like, it's
No,
this
I
little
understand. Yeah.
and then out. So what happens though is when we don't have that kind of steadiness with it, we end up normalizing that depletion. We just end up, and this is life. This is what life looks like. This is what it's like to be me. This is what it is like to be a mom, a wife, a da da da, and we can list all the things that support that and back it up. And the reality is we have to sit with that and just say, where, if at all, can I see that I have accepted depletion as a way of life?
Mm.
No judgment, no, oh my gosh, what a fool. No, 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 none of that. Just sit with it. Where have I? At what stage or point of my life did I begin to think, feel, believe, act as if that was just the way it was? And then And where have I dropped the possibility of thriving? Where have I put that down as something that either will never show up or will show up later, but I cannot access it right now? You know, that for me, being able to sit with those questions, walk with those questions, just be with those questions can be the turning point. And anything that we decide to do with it thereafter, because it's still a choice, because we may have the awareness, we may sit with it, we may notice and realize, and then we still have a choice. Do I want to do anything about it, or do I not? What is the impact if I continue in the vein that I have been going? What is that impact on me? And am I okay to sit with that, or am I not? We just open up those questions, and then we just become that conscious awareness. And then making decisions from that space feels completely different. It feels completely different than when you're in it and you're just in it. And quite frankly, you can't see the choices, the decisions that you're making and what they are creating. You kind of have to step away from it a bit to look in and then realize
Mhm.
and then decide. Listen, I know people who, if I were to look at their how they live their life, it's chaotic and crazy. However, that's chaotic and crazy to me. But for, I would definitely say one or two of them, that crazy and chaotic is they're thriving. How, I mean, they literally thrive in their chaos, and they thrive in it. You know, there's
Fantastic.
something that for me is a choice, but it's a choice. They have chosen it. They are fully aware. Like I know for anybody else, this looks completely balmy. This looks absolutely like, what is this person doing? But for me, it makes me feel alive. It makes me feel, hey, then it's nobody's place to come and say, yeah, but that's all wrong.
No, no, no,
Absolutely
no.
not.
There is no wrong. Like there is no right. But yeah, that's exactly what I am thinking when you know I see this type of phrasing and how you end up adopting it, because what you are describing is very different to what I was doing. It's like a very like you are like using it to your advantage basically, and that is fabulous because you can at moments of your life choose to be all in for something that you might not be interested in, that you know it's hard for you or that you don't want it or whatever, but that is also a choice.
Yes.
It's different when you are thinking I have no choice, therefore I'm sitting in this and I will put my head down and do it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what will do to me. And when the time comes to get out of this, in the first scenario, you know exactly when that time is, you know how you're going to replenish yourself. But in the second scenario, there is absolutely not knowing when this is going to end.
Yeah.
You don't know how depleted, how, like, to what extent you're going to be out of it. And if you are able to bring yourself back. And that is dangerous, I
Yeah.
think, in many respects.
Absolutely. Well, you're trapped then in a set of behaviors that are basically, you know, crushing you, maybe from the inside out,
Mm-hmm,
and you just
mm-hmm,
keep doing it. And actually, I'm going to go back to the garden with this because there's something about, you know, when a plant is struggling, we don't demand it to grow more, or you know, we don't ask it to work harder. You're struggling, come on. You know, we water it, we tend to it, we give it nourishment. What makes us think that we're any different, that we need a different set of ways of coming back to flowering, if you like, than the plant does?
yeah, no, that's it. And you know, also timing is very important for everything that we do and all, you know, that is happening. And I
Mm,
heard the other day something. from the teachings of Buddha, and it was like a parable or something. And there was this person that actually it's from the book of Kazadzakis, Zorba's the Greek. He was saying that he came across a cocoon right at the minute where the cocoon was breaking for the butterfly to come out. But the person, he was feeling that, okay, that takes too long. So he started like blowing on it. So with his breath and the heat to help the butterfly come. And it surely did. However, to his horror, he saw that the wings of the butterfly had not unfolded completely because it hadn't given it the right amount of time. And it was trying to help the butterfly to open the wings, but like that is not possible to be done. Not when you force things. So the butterfly could not do it because it was outside its cocoon and it died. And the whole story, I mean, I felt so, when I heard it, I was like, this is like really what a metaphor for our lives as well, when it comes to like, oh, it needs to be done, it needs to be done now, and I have to be there, and why am I not there, and all these things. How much we are hurting ourselves and we don't know about it. So this pausing is literally the equivalent of letting the butterfly unfold its wings in its own time and let it survive properly, not just survive.
Exactly.
Survive. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something about that also, and I think this is also important, is that even wherever you are in your life, if thriving is something that you can say, well, I don't think I've ever experienced it, then it's not too late. It's never too late, because you're talking about timing now.
Yeah.
That you can begin to thrive in your life the minute you become consciously aware that you haven't been, and that actually you would want to. You want to have it in your life. That's the moment you can start to say, okay, now what does that really mean to me? And what are those micro things that I can do to ensure that I experience that, even as life is doing everything else and being everything else, and there's loads of crazy stuff happening. What am I going to consciously put in place so that I experience thriving in my life, because it's available to us all? I believe we simply need to decide, one, recognize it, two, decide what that means for us, and then what do we want to put in place so that we experience it, so that we embody it. And let's just say, why do I care whether I'm thriving or not? Why is it important? For me personally, I would say because it changes the way that you experience life, period.
Yep.
The uphills, the downhills, the whatever parts of life that you are, if you are experiencing thriving in the midst of all of that, it changes your outlook, it changes how you connect with people, it changes how you connect with yourself, this relationship. And so if you haven't experienced that, then I would invite you to start pausing to think about how you can bring that into your being, into your space.
Yeah, out of all the relationships you spoke about, I think that relationship with ourself is one of the most important ones. Of course, I mean, it goes without saying, but like also giving time to ourselves. And I think that pausing that you are explaining, and like pausing in movement, which I love, is like the true communication with ourselves, and what can give us the answers. Because I mean, we can talk until the cows come home, but the thing is that each and every one of us have their own answers for this particular subjects. And of course, because of our backgrounds, of the way that we have seen life up to now, the natural characteristics that we have, all these things can be very personal, very unique to each and every one of us. So I think just because of the uniqueness, it's worth taking the time and listening to ourselves and understanding how we can do life a different way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. I agree. And you know, for me, you know, human flourishing, thriving is, I want to say it's everything, and I mean that in that kind of way that it gives you something that makes life feel like the gift that it is. I kind of think that's what I'll leave it at. It gives you that thing that makes you realize that life is the gift that it is. And when it is not there, it can be incredibly challenging to see life as the gift that it is.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
Okay.
we're good.
I think
And the
we both
conversation,
posed.
I was going to say, and the conversation continues next week, right?
Yes, yes, yes. I think that it is a subject that's worth discussing further and seeing it from various um,
Perspectives.
perspectives. There you go, perspectives, and also hopefully that's going to give any person that wants to add to this. Let us know what you think. How has any of this showed up for you, and what are your thoughts on the matter? And we can
Yeah.
discuss further.
Post them in the comments, let us know. We can bring them into the conversation. You know, is thriving something you've experienced or not? You know, how do you ensure that thriving becomes part of the way that you live your life? How have you excluded it? How does that feel for you? Anything at all. We welcome that and we will bring it into the conversations over the next couple of weeks for sure.
For sure. Thank you very much, Yvonne. As always, a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, Evie. Thank you to all those who have watched and listened in. Thank you.